Hey, I'm Owen.
Hi, I'm Suzana.
And we are back with one of the most fun pages I think we've done in a while.
I agree, actually. I was really excited for this one.
This is these panels, like these pages, are some of the most fun I have when we make comics. And if they made up like way more majority of the kind of panels that we do,
yeah,
I would be thrilled. Do you know what I mean?
I would agree with that. It would take a lot of time, but
yeah.
It would be fun.
Yeah, it sure would. I would sincerely super enjoy, like, the fact that sometimes they have to talk in between.
Yeah.
These really dynamic scenes is a letdown to me. I wish
wish they could be quiet and just communicate through body language.
I don't want to write. I just want you to draw this. I think that's the takeaway. Yeah. So I had so much fun with this page. These are like, especially because, I do some basic thumbnail work when it comes to pages like this. But for the most part, these are the pages that I think you most double down on. Like, you really plan the positioning of the panels. You plan like the angles, and when there's less dialogue in pages like this, I think for the most part, like, you kind of come forward a lot on these pages. So for me, that's super fun because it's all a surprise to me. Where I'm the number of panels and the pacing of the panels is on me, but for the most part, like, when you give me the sketch for this page, it is truly like the first time I'm seeing the page, and it's almost always like, oh, this is really, I love this. This has totally surprised me. I did not expect it to look exactly like this. And it's super fun.
I love that.
Yeah, it is absolutely one of my favorite parts of making the comic.
I guess I never really thought about that. Like, that it is much more like a fresh experience for you.
Yeah, for sure. Like, for the most part, like, with other pages, it's easier for me to be like, oh, not exactly what I wanted. Can we actually just shift this and do this? But with these pages, like, I on purpose leave it to you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because I think that a lot of the body language and stuff that carries through in scenes like this should be illustrative.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They really should be on you to do. I can give some direction, like, he is physically lifting him.
Yeah.
Like, but how that comes across should be on you.
Yeah.
Because it is a visual communicator.
Fair enough.
You know what I mean?
I guess that actually makes a lot more sense. In looking at the thumbnails, I remember very specifically your notes were like he shifts him, adjusts him, and then picks him up.
Yeah.
And it's just like that was the direction. So I was like, oh, okay.
I wanted it to be like, because for me, writing this scene, the only thing I really cared to communicate with this is Milo, once again, even in a very small way, is physically moving Liam into the next part of his life. You know what I mean? And Liam is obviously putting his foot down and establishing boundaries about what parts of his life he does not want to be moved through.
Yeah.
But there's no denying he enjoys this dynamic that he's built with Milo, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like this little, like, metaphorical moment where, like, Milo, given an inch, will now be like, all right, now I get to move you. You like that, right? Like, and Liam does. He does like it. This is his dynamic with him. He does stagnate without Milo. You know what I mean? So it's like, and it's very much like page ends with the, for now. You know what I mean? Like, I will accept this arrangement for now. I enjoy it for now. You know what I mean? But that's really all I care to communicate when I wrote the page. Yeah. And then for the most part, it's like, please take this. I want to see what you do with it. And it is a total surprise to me. I would say specifically, I really loved the page as a whole. I liked every panel very, very much. But the biggest surprise to me, I think, was panel 4. I just didn't expect, I don't know why. I don't know what I was expecting, because I think the whole point is that I wasn't expecting anything.
Yeah.
I didn't go into it with any expectations. And then when I saw the sketch that you had for it, I was so like, oh, he's so awkward and I love it so much.
Yeah.
That was my favorite panel that I've gotten back in sketch phase in so long. It's like, it's really cute to me. I love his gangly little legs.
Just kicking around wildly.
And he's so awkward. He's just so like a baby deer trying to stand for the first time, but like adjusting to being lifted, and it's so, I hadn't expected it at all. I don't know why I didn't visualize anything about it, but it was so funny to me. I laughed for like a good 5 minutes when you first sent me the sketch. I really, really like it.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's actually really funny to me that, like, And you saying, like, oh, he would pick him up, like, my first thought is always just, like, well, Milo's trained to pick people up.
Oh, yeah,
he does ballet.
Yeah, that's
so it's
true.
like, he's trained now, and because he's a little bit stronger.
Sure, yeah.
He's trained now to just pick up, like, women very often.
Sure.
In ballet. So, like, he knows how to do this.
Yeah, he knows, like, where the center of balance is
Yeah.
to be able to lift somebody, especially from the position he was starting from.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
But then when it comes to, like, picking up Liam, it's just, like, for Liam, he's not trained in anything. And, like, even though he's now experienced this multiple times,
Sure.
and Miles probably, like, tried to adjust him to, like, learning how to do it, it doesn't stick.
No, for sure. He's
so
very...
100%.
And he's nervous.
Yeah.
And being nervous, obviously, like, part of being able to be lifted is also in learning to be lifted and learning not to be scared.
Yeah.
And to, like, trust your partner to, like, lift you successfly.
Be confident.
Yeah, there's a confidence to it that Liam... He's not a dancer.
Yeah.
He has no intentions of becoming a dancer. It wasn't on his resume. It wasn't on his docket. He wasn't...
Yeah.
It's, you know what I mean? So it's just kind of like this thing that keeps happening to him, and, like, he's getting the hang of, like, how to move his body to not fall on his neck. But he's still so awkward, and it's genuinely, like, really fun for me to be able to see, like, the confidence that's in Milo's body language, and also, especially occasionally when you see some aspects of his dancing acted out in that way. Do you know what I mean? I really, really enjoy that, especially because I don't think to write it. Do you know what I mean? So when you insert it, it's such, like, a delightful surprise to me. And then also just like a graceful dance move on one end being met with just abject horror for his
flailing.
Yeah, for his center of reality being shifted up in the air like a good, like, 4 feet. Like, just like, whoa! It was I really enjoyed that, so.
I love that.
Yeah, so thank you for this page. I appreciate it.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for the chance to draw it.
Yeah, no problem.
I like to get to, like, animate these little moments. That's really fun.
That's true. There is a lot of, especially when it's a dialogue light page, there's a lot of chance for, like, animation to exist, like a faux animation to exist between panels, where it's like, that's some of my favorite stuff, is when you can see, like, the position of the hand shifting between panels, and it's like, as a hand gets lowered or as somebody gets lifted or whatever else, you see, like, the limbs moving as if they are, like, animation frames. Like, they're between movements in some panels. Do you know what I mean? They're kind of, like, raised awkwardly. Like, a hand will be raised awkwardly as it's on its way to go brush someone's hair. Or it'll come down after somebody has, like, touched their face in frustration. And then there's, like, a panel of, like, an awkward hand kind of suspended as it's, like, coming down from that gesture. That's some of my favorite.
Yeah.
I guess, I don't know what you call it in comics. It's, like, prop work, but it's not props. It's just some of my favorite, like, small visual details that kind of, like, marry panels together.
Yeah. I've noticed that you do like to put those a lot in I call it storyboarding, but it is the thumbnailing.
Sure, yeah.
It is basically storyboarding.
Yeah.
You do like to communicate with hands a lot.
I do.
And same, because I do feel like a lot of communication does occur in hand movement.
Yes, yeah.
And maybe that's just like in growing up, we grew up with a lot of like
hand talkers. Yeah, for sure. My family are definitely big hand talkers. We're Italian, so it's very. I've been known to knock many a glass of beverage off a table as I'm passionately discussing something, for sure. Yeah.
Whoops.
Yeah. So yeah, that is probably something that we're both kind of accustomed to. So we both kind of love including that little visual tick of, like, people talking, especially some characters more than others do talk with their hands more. Milo is a big hand talker.
Yeah.
Liam is not so much a hand talker until he's frustrated.
Yeah.
And then he has, like, jerking motions of, like, I really am doing badly at expressing myself. And so now the hands come out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I've noticed with Liam, too, you also have him... his communication with his hands is usually that he doesn't know what he's doing with them. He holds himself in.
Yes.
He grabs things.
Yes.
He holds drinks. He holds, like, cigarette. He holds notebooks. He, like, grasps onto things kind of as protection.
Yeah, he is very,
I've noticed you do that a lot.
Clingy in that way. Yeah. That's pretty true. Especially, maybe not quite as much as it used to be, but, like, overall, he's a very, like, when he's trying to express himself, he's very frustrated to have to do so. He's not a good communicator, and so he does have very, like, stunted physical reactions to having to talk about stuff that he doesn't really want to talk about. Whereas Milo is very expressive and big sweeping gestures that kind of, like, and he what is it, the milking the invisible cow thing?
Yeah.
Is that what it is? Or
Yes.
it's just like
Something like that.
It's something like with the acting with the da-da, like,
Yeah.
why am I in this position? You know what I mean? It's like very
It's the big like open hands to the
yeah,
air.
yeah, why? Just, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think that was you putting that too the first time.
And
I
chapter
was
one.
like, that's exactly him.
Is
He
that what
nailed
you mean
it.
in chapter one? Yeah. I think when chapter one is so silly to look back on. I love it so much.
Yeah.
It's when he's in the bathroom, he's like talking to himself with these grand.
I think 100% you thumbnailed that even at the time. And I
I'm
was
sure
like,
I did.
This is exactly what I envisioned for him all the
Yeah.
time. Like he is very emotive, and you nailed it.
Yeah.
So I actually really like that.
I'm happy. I'm really glad for that. To look back on it, it's so. I think chapter one was so silly compared to where it is now. Like these sweeping like talking to himself wildly in the bathroom, and he has like an out loud punchline to himself. It's very it's for me to look back on. I really like it. I really I think I've said it before. It's like baby pictures.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? When you look back on your old stuff like that, it's so like, oh, that was so so goofy. But I really enjoyed looking back on it, and I like seeing like what it was then compared to what it is now. It's like Milo still is that way. I think he's made that same pose, that the hands outward to the sky. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, very recently.
Yeah.
I can't even remember what scene that was.
Yeah.
I'm sure we could very quickly find it.
I'm sure, yeah. Yeah, it's very he still is exactly the same.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy it. Even if it's like toned down. Since the earlier chapters.
To be fair, in chapter 1 he was a little tipsy. Maybe even drunk.
True. Yeah, that's real.
So,
that's true.
We do see him doing that more when he's drunk or tipsy.
That is true. Yeah, he definitely has like the gestures start to come out a little bit more. But, yeah, when he's a little.
No, we don't see him drunk very often. But
no, not really anymore.
Yeah.
Well, because he lives with Liam.
Yeah.
And Liam doesn't drink.
So like he wouldn't be inclined to drinking on his own.
Right. Exactly.
So,
yeah. Yeah. That's real.
It's definitely true.
Yeah, that's real. So, how did you enjoy? When you go to draw pages like this, how do you enjoy the process of like these really dynamic poses? How do you because I know it takes you longer.
Yeah.
It always does, especially once you have two characters.
Oh yeah. The interpersonal stuff.
Yeah. Like interacting physically, like not only do you have to like hold the ratios of their heights and their body proportions in your head more when they're close enough that you can see when it's dramatically off. I know that just the poses being slightly more dynamic takes longer.
Yeah.
But how do you enjoy it?
I actually end up having a lot of fun with it. It's a little bit of research sometimes too, because every once in a while it's like I can intuit something that'll make sense to me, and I'll sketch even with that in mind sometimes.
Sure.
But even sometimes it's really helpful for me to look up like a photo of someone holding someone in a very similar position.
That's right, yeah.
Just so I can understand, like, because I know where the center of gravity is, but like, how would someone position themselves in that center of gravity?
Right.
It's it's an important thing to look at, because when you're being picked up, like, where would someone hold you? Like,
right.
I would be inclined to think, oh, you'd hold their back or something, but it's like, no, you actually have to
hold their butt
under.
Get your hands up under their butt. Yeah, for sure.
And unless they like start putting their legs around you to hold on to you,
right,
like, then they're gonna be like falling all over the place.
Sure, yeah.
So Liam would be at least trained in that.
Yeah, he's gotten used to that. Fall. Yeah, he does not want to be dropped on his head for sure. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and even then, it's like I'm sure Liam's jeans are very uncomfortable. Poor thing. But they're very nice jeans.
Yeah, that's super funny actually. How does it feel like when you're like mid-page? Like, is it more fun to do this kind of stuff than like the more conversational stuff?
I would think so, because I kind of enjoy being able to go through and like do like a little dynamic angle and like having like big like fluid hand movements, having leg movements and feet flying and stuff.
That is true. It's kind of like a nice change of pace to actually have like leg body what do I want to say, like gestures, like leg gestures, actually, because like especially when someone's like seated, especially like in chairs across a desk talking to each other, usually like you kind of leave your legs alone. Like,
people don't move their legs a whole lot when they're sitting,
gesturing with their like kicking a leg up in the air and gesturing. I love it. It's not really a thing that often.
You know, of all of them, Milo probably does that the most, and I'm sure Liam's just kind of like, stop with your feet.
Get your feet away from me, please. That is true.
Yeah, so we don't see that very often.
That is a fun thing. You like drawing legs too.
Yeah, I do like drawing legs. I like calves. I think they're fun.
Yeah.
And I think pant legs are really fun, especially like like pant legs will like pull up on your calves a lot.
Yeah.
So you get some like really cute angles with that, but there's not a lot of reasons to draw it here.
Yeah.
So
I think I've said this too recently a lot, where it's like now that we're in chapter 19 of Toy, very, very near the end of chapter 19, going into chapter 20, and I've talked a little bit about whether I want to split chapter 20 into 20 and 21. I'm not sure yet. I haven't decided. It will be the same chapter. It'll just be,
it's the same content.
It's just the same content. How it divides. How I call it. It'll, you know what I mean? But but now that we're this close to the end, I definitely have felt, and I've noticed it now, especially going into chapter 20, some kind of obligation to keep it consistent. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So Toy's almost over. There's like maybe 2 years, maybe a year and a half, I'm not sure. Yeah. Left of content of it. And for the most part, I feel kind of an obligation to keep the general pacing, the general way that the story is presented, similar to itself enough that it doesn't feel like a huge divergence from the kind of story it's been this whole time. Yeah. And it's been like it's a very dialogue heavy, it's a very character interaction heavy, it's very everyone has like specific motives for the way that they act and the way that they interact with each other, and they have like very set things that they're dealing with and trying to like figure out. Right. So a lot of the story is told through dialogue. You know what I mean? It's like a lot of like conversations, and there is room, of course, for like stuff like this, like more dynamic stuff. But for the most part, it's not a very action-heavy story. Yeah. And it feels weird to make it more action-heavy in chapter 20. Like, I'm not going to, you know what I mean?
Very suddenly, there's a lot of action scenes.
Yeah, exactly. Or, like, a lot of, like, really gestural kind of stuff where you get to act out stuff with legs. Like, it doesn't really, you know what I mean? So I definitely have felt some kind of obligation to myself to kind of make Toy consistent like that. Yeah. Which I have to say that, like, I do have plans for stuff that comes after to be more, I don't know if I don't want to call it action, because I think action has a connotation of, like...
Yeah, like running from bad guys.
Bombs and guns and stuff. I don't mean action like that. Yeah. But I think what I mean is, I guess, less dialogue heavy, more action, quote-unquote, oriented, where it's like more of the story told through like physicality. I guess
physical movements, noticing a gesture and actually like having a panel draw attention to the gesture.
Exactly. I'm really excited. I use the word excited a lot when I talk about this stuff, but I am desperately excited for the kind of pivot that's going to bring. And obviously, I think anything I write is always going to still be very dialogue like important. Like there's going to be a lot of emphasis on character interaction and character development through dialogue. But
I think that makes a lot of sense when you have what do you call it, the daily kind of like
slice of life.
Yeah. When you're going through like people's actual lives, it tends to rely on that a little more.
Yeah, because like how often is it like, short of like, I guess in this chapter, like Liam got caught in the rain, he had to like, you know what I mean, like a little bit of like you run to get out of the rain. Yeah. You maybe like you have like a romantic moment with your partner or whatever. Like these are like kind of the most action most people do. Yeah. And at least like when I go to write something that's very slice of life heavy, that's what I mean, you know what I mean? Like I don't go running from bombs. I don't exactly. Do you know what I mean? I don't even really like run very often, except like for exercise. You know what I mean? Like it's not a very my life is not very action oriented. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So
it makes me think of there was that, I think it was on Tumblr post forever ago, that was like how often do you jump in a day? Yeah. And it's just like, in thinking about that, you can apply that to a slice of life. Like how often would they jump?
How often would they use their legs for physically acting out their lives, except to walk calmly between multiple places? Yeah. Like you don't jump, you don't really even run, or like like you're not usually like, nobody's like hitting each other, you know what I mean? Like, you know, I haven't gotten in a fist fight since I was like 8. Do you know what I mean? It's not.
I can't remember the last time I was in a fist fight.
It's not a thing. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, not to say that stories that involve elements like this, like that's very exciting to me. Like stories that do use elements like this are very exciting and valid and valuable and real also in their own way, because they're telling the stories of the exceptions. Do you know what I mean? But Toy in its run is very slice of life. Yeah. It is about like this just cross section of these characters' lives in a very normal very average kind of lifestyle. Do you know what I mean? So I definitely have felt somewhat beholden to myself to make that consistent, and I definitely would like to in future projects, which are happening sooner than later now, use more of like like I said, nothing so much as like running from bombs or shooting guns or anything like that, but like to have a more action oriented kind of pivot in the way that I tell stories like this.
Well, I think like a good example of that is how when we started even on DocUp. Yeah. So DocUp has the prologue. Yes. That's what we have like pages up right now of. And in there, I think a lot of your storyboarding did involve more action.
DocUp is Death of Caleb Perkins.
Yes. Yeah. And in that, you actually do put a lot more emphasis on action.
There's things happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
There's active things that have to be done, movements that involve the whole body, movements that involve just like a hand motion in a moment. And so it's like little things like that. I feel as though that was really fun to get to see storyboard.
Oh, it was so much fun to write. I really enjoy that comic, and I'm so like, even as we get out of the prologue and into chapter 1 of that comic, I love writing that comic. It's so much fun. It is so different, and yet like still so much like all my favorite things about why I enjoyed the dialogue heavy scenes of Toy. Like to be able to, I love character interaction. I love literally like taking two people with like super opposite or even just super unrelated motives for the way that they live their lives and what they want to do with their lives, and putting them together and seeing how they're going to interact with each other. That's like my favorite thing about writing stories. You know what I mean? Is just pure like character interaction. Do you know what I mean?
But I can definitely see that for you.
I love it. I really do. But at the same time, like, it is very fun to write a comic that does not force me to stay to just slice of life kind of day-to-day conversation. It is so much fun, and to have these moments where like you can linger on physicality, not just intimacy, but like also like just the kind of physicality that comes from maybe when you don't know someone very well, and you do have more moments of like you didn't talk about it when you got to know that person. You noticed something about something they did that had nothing to do with like what they said to you, because I think how you know someone kind of changes as you come like to be more accustomed to them, and then at that point you have to talk to them more. But so I think part of it is also in writing characters that are newly meeting, but also in a plot that is more action, quote unquote, based. I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled.
I agree. So would you say that you actually prefer the like new interactions versus old interactions?
So like, do I prefer like a more dialogue heavy slice of life way of writing, or do I prefer like going towards something that has more physicality? That's a good question. I think there's pros and cons of both. I think there is a thrill for me in a conversation that ends in a way that I hadn't anticipated it would end when I go to write it. And there's a thrill for me in trying to figure out how two characters would interact that I hadn't expected it to go that way. Like for instance, the Christmas party when they go to Nora's house. I, before sitting down to write that scene, I don't think I realized how much Liam would like Roger. Do you know what I mean? And so there's like a small thrill for me in moments like that where like I learned something about the characters in writing them. Do you know what I mean?
And I think that was even the first time Liam met Roger. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's actually really funny to think about.
It's super funny to me. Like, that is very funny to me. Or, like, there's moments where it's, like, realizing that Liam would be more awkward with Nora than I even imagined. And then getting to that, and it all unfolds in a certain way, and I'm like, this is fun. It's very fun. So I won't say that I prefer one way or the other. There's a thrill to me in both. Do you know what I mean? But I definitely will be excited to have more opportunities to do both simultaneously. Because I think with all things, I don't have favorite ways of doing things. I only want novelty.
You enjoy something that's new.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense. I think that's one of the benefits of writing another story too, is that you do get to have something novel.
To have two comics simultaneously even, that are so different in approach. Do you know what I mean? I think is for me, like I crave some change of pace. Do you know what I mean? Even as I love the current status quo and the current way we do things, I feel like I'm at my most satisfied when it comes to work when there's like two simultaneously, or more, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Simultaneously running projects that demand a totally different way of looking at them.
I actually agree, even from an art aspect.
Sure.
Because I think I've even talked about it before, that in switching between Death of Caleb and Toy,
yes,
I ended up finding that I felt like my art improved in between, because
switching between two mental styles. Yeah.
Because to me, like, obviously the style is like very similar. It is still my art style,
right?
But I switch it up in my brain because I do know what is different between them.
Yeah, it might be things that only you are observing that are actually truly different.
Yeah.
But it still wakens some kind of mental exercise for you.
Yeah. It makes me process it differently as I go through to draw each part.
Yeah.
So I do enjoy what it does artwork wise too, just to like mentally give me something different.
Yeah. I love that a lot. I definitely I agree. I think this is just me in general. I think novelty in general is so fun and fascinating, and that's kind of like why I like, even though so much of the comic is stopped up in production, where it's like every page takes so long to make, so it's like you always kind of wish that you could be a page ahead. Like you kind of always do wish that you were in this moment working on the page that's 6 pages down, because that contains like a new idea, or like you're kind of always like ideating like, oh, I wish I was on the other comic, or I wish I was like on the next scene, because I'm so excited to get to the next scene. I think there's I think that's what's exciting about comics too, is that none of the work goes so slowly that you're ever deprived from getting there. Yeah. You get there pretty quick. Even if it's like next month, it's still next month.
Yeah, it's surprisingly fast. Yeah. And even to get to this scene, it surprised me how fast it came up.
Yeah, for sure. Especially as we were nearing the end of the scene with Eli, I was like, wow, that went so fast. Yeah. It really, truly did. And then every scene can contain something in it that is so exciting, that you're so excited to work on in it, as long as like you're allowing yourself to like bury something that makes you really happy and excited in every scene that you do. Yeah, there's always something like right around the corner that's going to be super novel, that's going to be super exciting to make, and you've set yourself up. Like the carrot on the string is so attainable. Do you know what I mean? So
it's right there.
It's right there, as long as like you're not assigning yourself a scene that you've not put anything that truly excites you into it, and then I guess you will have to slog through that. Yeah. But I think part of the joy of it is making sure that you give yourself at least one small thing to be like really thrilled about when you get to that scene. Yeah. And then everything feels super novel. Yeah. Everything feels like, yes, clean slate, move down. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you totally new scene, new character in this scene, new coloring situation in this scene. And then you get to like really truly savor every single switch, and it goes kind of quick. Yeah. So it's, I don't know, that's one of my favorite things about it. I just want more. Yeah.
just constantly more.
Just more. I think that's why we've become so addicted.
That's definitely true. And I think even it's also very interesting that even like the extras kind of evolved because of that too. Yes. We wanted something different.
To do a different, totally different thing. Yeah, it's like you want to make something that's slightly more adult, but like also does have more dynamic angles. It has more dynamic approach to paneling. Yeah,
that's exactly it. It was born of like, I want to draw some like action scenes, and it's like, what kind of action?
What kind of action for a slice of life romance?
I mean, why not?
Yeah, and it's fun. Yeah. It's fun to draw like more intimate stuff. It just genuinely is. Yeah, and it's some of my favorite stuff to color, because as I've said before, I love coloring skin, and there's lots of it in there.
So much skin.
So yeah, that's true. That is why we did that in the first place, and why I'll be excited to do more of that in the future too.
Yeah, and even in that, like, I did notice that even in this page you put something to it that you usually do in the extras.
What's that?
They're turning, like, the scene's turning more pink.
And yes, I do that. That is actually true. I do that a lot in the extras. I like shifting the background color as a scene becomes more intimate, I guess, as a character interaction becomes more romantic. I guess I do love shifting up to a slightly warmer, redder tone.
I love that. It's one of my favorite things you do.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm really glad. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed having the chance to do it on this scene. Glad. Yeah. So if you got to this point in the video, thank you so much for watching.
Yeah, thank you.
We really appreciate it.
Very much.
Have a good one.
Have a good one.